name is Ed Paget and I'm a UK trained osteopath. I'm in a functional movement class that involves movement in all three planes of motion, and those three planes of motion are key to the way the human body works.
It's a very interesting class. I'm actually a fitness instructor, so it was quite, I'm going to take a ton of it and actually try to incorporate it back into my classes. I was surprised. He was very good at kind of teaching you how your body works in kind of three different planes, and I was quite surprised of how we're just very conditioned to work in a single plane for the most part. And actually my classes are a little bit tailored for single plane motion, and we strengthen in one way or another, but we're really not combining things that really functionally helps us to not get injured.
So the movement class I offer gives a way for people to actually access these movements and practice them at home. I just want to explain what those three planes of movements are. So if we have a person here and they're leaning forwards, they're moving in the sagittal plane. And if they lean backwards, they're moving in the sagittal plane. If they lean to the side, they're moving in the frontal plane. And if they rotate either side, they're moving in the transverse plane. When people come to my class, I like them to imagine they're standing on a grid with their 2 feet pointing forwards. And that is 0 degrees. There's a line coming out from in between their feet that is 0 degrees. And to the right, you have 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 135, and then 180. And to the left, the same. The movement is initiated by a driver. So a driver, for example, could be the eyes. If I was to look over my shoulder to the left, I've initiated that movement with my eyes. However, I can also use my shoulders to be a driver and just turn my shoulders first. I can also use my hand to be a driver. What we try and do in the functional movement class is select different drivers to accomplish different tasks. And so those tasks are usually rotation in the transverse plane, sagittal plane flexion or extension, or side bending left and right. But the driver changes in each movement. For an example of that, I can take my left hand above my head and I can use my hand to initiate the movement to the right. But if I leave my head still, I'm getting an S in my spine. Whereas if I use my head to lead that movement, I get a C shape in my spine. And another example of drivers would be the head driver moving over the shoulders with the eyes, or the shoulders moving underneath the head. A lot of people have woken up in the morning with a crick neck, with a sore neck, and they can't look left or right. And what happens there is the body has a certain sequence of movements that goes down through the muscles led by the eyes. So if the eyes look over to the left, there's a firing of these muscles to say, okay, we're moving the head to the left. But if I hold my head still and focus on something in front of me and move my shoulders to the right, I actually do the same movement. If I hold my head still here and come back, I've actually looked over my left shoulder. But I've done it in a completely different way. I'm looking over my left shoulder with my eyes, looking over my left shoulder with my shoulders. And sometimes that can actually trick the body into creating a different firing pattern and getting around the stiffness in the neck.
That was something brand new to me. I can't say I'd ever heard or seen movement exercise before.
We'll be looking at a tennis player's serve. So they're standing rotated to the left, or a right-handed tennis player. As they throw the ball up, they go into extension and side bending to the left. And as they hit the ball, they go into flexion, side bending, and rotation, using all those couple movements. And what we would look for in athletes is to say, okay, how well can you side bend this way, and how well can you rotate this way? And this is actually one of the movements I would use with athletes in order to get them to be better side bending and rotating at the same time. One of the common problems I see in clinic is shoulder injuries coming from dysfunctional hips. If the hips don't move either to the side in the frontal plane, to the front and back in the sagittal plane, or even into rotation in the transverse plane, the shoulder on shoulder movements has to do more movement, and this predisposes it to get irritated or worn out. And what I found quite a lot is patients were coming to me with shoulder problems and they needed to be able to move their hips. And I thought, well, rather than coming to me for one-on-one sessions and paying $105 a time, I'd get them to come to a class, enjoy a group environment, meet some more people, and do that weekly as opposed to whatever their budget could afford on one-on-one sessions. So we set up the functional movement classes to provide people with exercises that they need to do to loosen the hips up to help with injuries elsewhere in the body.
First day was like, I wasn't sure, I was nervous about the movement class, and then some of the things he had us do had me shaking my head like, okay, let's try this out. But you know, the things that Ed did in that, I couldn't even move my arm over my head, and now it was completely back. It's just amazing. Wow, I had no idea even what an osteopath was until I got here, and now I'm a believer.